So the rise of artificial intelligence is uh, forcing governments everywhere to scramble for policy.
It's happening so fast.
Right. We've seen everything from that sweeping UN resolution to the EU's big AI Act. But if you really want to understand where AI could trigger, I mean, the single greatest economic transformation this decade,
Yeah.
you have to look toward Africa.
It's the sheer scale of the potential that dictates this focus. I mean, it's just mind-boggling.
What are we talking about, numbers-wise?
Financial analyses, from places like PwC, they're estimating AI could add a stunning $1.5 trillion to the African economy by 2030.
$1.5 trillion.
Yes. And to put that in perspective, that's equivalent to about 6% of the continent's entire GDP.
Wow. So we aren't talking about marginal growth here.
No, not at all. We're talking about restructuring economies.
And to shepherd that opportunity, to make sure it benefits everyone, the African Union, the AU, has stepped in. In July 2024, they officially adopted the comprehensive Continental AI Strategy.
And that's our deep dive mission today, really unpacking this strategy for you. The core philosophy here is so important. This is fundamentally about designing an African-centric, people-centered approach.
Okay.
It's making sure that the technology aligns perfectly with Agenda 2063, which is, the continent's 50-year vision for an integrated, prosperous future.
Okay, let's unpack this. We've heard the term African-centric before. How does this policy actually embed that? What does an African-centric AI policy actually lie like?
Well, it took time. This didn't just appear overnight. The strategy actually originated with a proposal from Egypt way back in 2019.
So this has been in the works for a while.
For a while, it reflects this growing realization that Africa needed a unified voice on the global AI stage. So when the strategy was finally adopted, it wasn't just built on, typical technical safeguards. It was built on deep cultural values.
Tell us a bit more about those unique values.
Absolutely. So beyond the pillars you'd expect, like inclusion, human rights, prosperity, the strategy explicitly integrates values like Ubuntu.
Which emphasizes community.
Exactly. It emphasizes collective community and mutual humanity over, say, a strict Western individualism. And perhaps most uniquely, it centers on this core value of protecting cultural heritage and indigenous knowledge.
Okay, here's a massive insight for you listening. How does a principle like Ubuntu, that idea of collective community, how does that actually change a policy direction compared to what we see coming out of, say, Silicon Valley, which is often very individualistic, very profit-driven?
It shifts the entire definition of what ethical AI even means. In a Western context, ethical AI often focuses on individual privacy, algorithmic fairness for a single user.
Right. My data, my privacy.
Exactly. But when you embed a principle like Ubuntu, the focus shifts to the communal benefit. Policy then starts to prioritize applications that uplift entire sectors like food security over just individual consumer gains. The goal isn't just a powerful algorithm, it's an algorithm that serves the public good.
That's a key distinction. So they built this on those ethical foundations. How did they then structure the strategy to enforce those values? What are the big areas of focus?
It's structured around a framework designed to maximize opportunity while minimizing the risk. There are 5 main areas they identified.
Okay.
First, maximizing AI benefits, so using AI specifically for development. Second, minimizing AI risks, which is all about ethical, safe, and secure deployment.
Makes sense.
Third is building core AI capabilities, so tackling the talent and infrastructure needs. Fourth, the money pillar, public and private sector investment. And finally, regional and international cooperation.
That pretty much covers the entire life cycle of the technology. So if we look at that first point, maximizing benefits, the strategy had to be selective, right?
Right.
Which priority sectors do they think will see the highest immediate impact?
They were very smart about this. They chose sectors that are absolutely foundational to the continent. Agriculture and food security is number 1.
Of course. Farming contributes to what, over 60% of employment?
Exactly. Then you have healthcare, which is a huge one given the significant health challenges. They also focus heavily on improving public services, using AI to boost efficiency and accountability.
Trying to address some of those historical issues like corruption.
Explicitly. And finally, they look at peace and security, so using AI tools to monitor conflict and maybe counter disinformation.
That all makes sense. It's development first. But, a high-level strategy is just words on paper until it actually hits the ground.
Right.
What does real implementation look like? Here's where it gets really interesting. How does this translate to solving unique problems on the ground?
We can look at a very concrete initiative called the Center for Artificial Intelligence and Sustainable Development, or AASD. It was established by IDEA International and CAISD.
And AISD is a perfect example of the paradigm shift that AI enables here. Because traditionally, global development aid offered these generalized solutions that tried to fit everywhere but fit nowhere perfectly.
That's it, exactly. AI offers the capacity to process incredibly complex, localized data. We're talking about soil moisture levels, specific disease vectors, local language dialects.
Things a global model would just miss.
Completely. And you can use that data to deliver context-specific interventions. So you're moving beyond a standardized global fix to tailor a solution for Ghana or for Kenya or for South Africa individually.
And CASD's initial work focuses on those priority sectors you mentioned. Let's take precision agriculture. What's the immediate payoff there for sustainable development?
The payoff is tangible. It's about increasing yield and reducing waste. Precision agriculture uses data from satellites, from sensors, to micromanage resources. You can optimize irrigation, nutrient application, pest control.
So you're getting more food with less waste.
And when you can increase crop yield and stability, you are directly contributing to the global mission for zero hunger. It's a direct link.
And they are also focused on the mining sector, which is a huge economic pillar for so many countries.
Correct. And mining, as we know, can have serious environmental consequences if it's not checked. So CAISD is implementing AI for real-time environmental monitoring for predictive maintenance of machinery. This helps ensure that foundational economic activity can be managed sustainably.
But crucially, the strategy insists on inclusion. So how does a center like AIS address the profound human element, especially when you're dealing with hundreds of languages and massive skills gaps?
That's where the localization effort gets really technical. They are prioritizing natural language processing (NLP) for indigenous African languages.
So AI can understand and speak them.
Yes, because if essential information about healthcare or education is only available in English or French, huge segments of the population are just left out. NLP bridges that gap.
And the skills shortage.
They're tackling that through something called stackable education programs. Think of them as modular, flexible learning blocks. This allows local talent to acquire specific AI skills incrementally without needing, a full 4-year university degree right away.
Okay, now we have to pull back and address the massive inhibitors here. You painted a picture of $1.5 trillion in potential, but the reality on the ground, the infrastructure, is starkly different.
It is.
How can we take that optimistic figure seriously when Africa only accounts for about 1.8% of the world's large-scale data centers? That seems like an almost insurmountable barrier.
You're right to challenge the number with the reality. The infrastructure challenge is the single biggest break on this whole vision. The AI divide is very real. Data from just a few years ago showed only about 2,400 AI organizations across the entire continent.
That's tiny.
It's tiny compared to global competitors.
And it's not just the physical infrastructure, it's the data itself, isn't it?
Absolutely. The data problem is twofold. First, there just isn't enough high-quality local data. But second, there is data bias. The AI systems available globally were overwhelmingly trained on data from the West.
So they don't represent African culture or demographics.
Or even local ecological realities, and this leads to models that are just not fit for purpose. They can even perpetuate existing biases in areas like, say, financial inclusion or justice systems.
Then there's the sheer computing power you need for modern AI. You mentioned high-performance computers.
Yes, HPCs. These are the industrial-scale supercomputers you need to train the massive AI models we hear about every day. And here's the staggering fact. 100% of the world's supercomputers reside in only 30 nations.
None in Africa.
Not on that top-tier list.
Right.
And you couple that with the fact that reliable electricity isn't a given everywhere, and the number of data centers is minimal. You just can't build world-class AI models if you don't have the compute power to train them.
So if we connect these gaps back to the policy, how does the AU strategy even begin to mitigate these huge structural risks?
The strategy focuses on proactive policy design. It recognizes two main categories of risk. You have system-level risks, the biases and discrimination that are baked into the flawed data sets.
Right.
And then you have structural risks. These are the big societal impacts, like widespread job displacement from automation or the widening of the digital divide. By naming these, the strategy can then set up regulatory mechanisms to try and mitigate them, all while reinforcing that need to protect indigenous knowledge.
And yet, even facing these monumental gaps, necessity is driving phenomenal invention. We're seeing startups solving critical problems with AI that just wouldn't exist in developed markets.
That's where the entrepreneurial spirit really shines. You see innovators, for instance, using mobile payment data, not bank accounts, but mobile money transactions for credit scoring.
Where traditional assets just aren't available.
Exactly. This is transformative for financial inclusion. Or you see AI being used for long-distance diagnostics to bridge that severe doctor-to-patient ratio in remote areas. A solution like using mobile payment data for a loan might sound ridiculous in Silicon Valley, but in this context, it's a lifeline.
Okay, let's move to the global stage. We know AI governance is being decided right now by bodies like the UN and the OECD. Where's Africa's voice in these critical international discussions?
The strategy highlights this as an urgent need. It calls for increased African participation in global AI governance. Right now, the continent's voice is often missing. Only one country, Egypt, is currently part of the OECD AI principles.
So if the rules are being written elsewhere,
The African context gets entirely ignored, and that could set up future barriers.
and the AU strategy itself is continental guidance, but implementation has to happen at the country level. How far along are individual nations in turning this blueprint into a reality?
It's a definitive call for action for all member states to develop their own national AI strategies. Progress is slow, but it is steady. Only about 9 African countries currently have standalone national AI strategies, but many others are actively working on integrating these ideas into their broader digital transformation plans.
So when the continent looks for international partnerships to bridge these gaps, what's the key factor for success, according to the AU's vision?
Localization and truly mutual benefit. The partnerships have to prioritize African-defined needs. The days of foreign partners just dictating terms or selling off-the-shelf solutions are, ideally, over.
It's a shift in the power dynamic.
A fundamental shift. The goal is to move from being just data providers to being active innovators and creators of AI models tailored to the continent.
So what does this all mean? The success of this vision, this potential $1.5 trillion boost, it really depends on mobilizing resources, overcoming these deep infrastructural gaps, all while maintaining that focus on uniquely African problems.
That is the crucial balancing act. The strategy aims to leverage AI's potential for massive economic growth, but to do it while ensuring the technology remains inclusive, ethical, and respects Africa's diverse cultural values, especially that people-centered approach anchored in principles like Ubuntu.
Thank you for joining this deep dive into AI for Africa's future. The AU strategy requires every member state to develop its own data governance and national strategies. So think about this. In an age where data and custom-built algorithms are the new source of power, Africa is intentionally laying the groundwork not just to use foreign AI, but to own the intellectual property and build its own custom models tailored for local prosperity. How profoundly does this policy structure shift the balance of global technological power?